Captain Mira Vallon had always found solace in routine. The freighter Auriga slid through the lavender haze of Horizon 7's upper atmosphere like a shark through water silent, sure, untouched by the chaos below. Through the wide viewport of the bridge, the planet's pale, rolling clouds shimmered in shades of violet and periwinkle, as if illuminated by a hidden sun. It was breathtaking and dangerously deceptive. Status report, Myra said, her fingers dancing over the holoconsole. Sensors detected only the planet's native wildlife, vast flocks of crystalline-winged wingbeasts, distant herds of moss sheep grazing in the methane marshes far below. No sentient life, no threats. Routine cargo drop at Outpost 9. Routine. Return to Navarra Station. That was the mission manifest. But the universe abhorred routine. Lieutenant Arlo's voice crackled in her earpiece. Captain, I'm reading a faint distress beacon. Origin unknown, transmission strength fluctuates. It's irregular. He paused. Could be local wildlife interference, but it's definitely not our signature. Myra leaned forward. Patch it through. The bridge lights dimmed as the comm system engaged. A single wavering tone answered her. One high-pitched beep, then two, then a pause, then one again. Inhuman, broken. This is Captain Mira Vallon of the Auriga. You're receiving us. Respond if you can. Her heartbeat quickened. They had never chased phantom signals before. It was the kind of call that lured foolish captains to ruin or glory. Coordinates match a derelict mining rig at Sector 12.5, Arlo reported. No registration. No hull transponder. It's drifting toward the lower rings. Mira exchanged a glance with her first officer, Commander Juno Reyes. Backup frequency? Juno asked softly. Locked, Arlo replied. No recognition. In any fleet database. Let's do this smart, Juno said. Full boarding party. 2 away teams. EVA suits, non-lethal weapons. And Captain, be ready for anything. Mira nodded and tapped her mic. Bridge to engineering. Divert power to magnetic dampeners and EVA prep. We launch in 10. 15 minutes later, the Auriga hovered above the ruined rig. Its skeletal framework jutted from the gas giant's swirling clouds like a broken god. Hull plates hung at odd angles. Cables trailed into the sky below, and the rig's lights flickered in the dim haze. The airlock cycled open with a hiss. Mira led her team onto the rig's catwalk. Below them, the planet's winds howled, buffeting the thin structure. Each footstep rang hollow on the metal planks. No sign of life, except the lingering dread in the stale, recycled air. Stay sharp, Myra whispered. Her pulse beat in her ears as the boarding party swept through corridor after corridor. Machinery lay torn apart, massive drills sheared in half. Conveyor belts twisted like writhing snakes. Sparks still danced along fractured power conduits, casting eerie shadows against walls smeared with dark ichor. Biomass readings are off the charts, Arlo murmured, scanning the room with a handheld. Large organism, multiple life signatures, but no human or known xenofauna. Get us visuals, Juno ordered. Arlo flicked a dial, and a holo projector displayed a scan of the chamber beyond. 3 enormous shapes, limbs coiled, forms half hidden in shadow. They shifted. One turned toward the camera, 2 glowing eyes like molten gold. Myra felt a chill despite her suit's internal heating. Hold position. Let me. Her words died as static rasped through the comms. Then came the voice, a cold, distorted baritone that seemed to vibrate through the bulkheads. Kneel, human, or my alien beast will rip you apart. The words were so impossibly deep that they could not have come from any human throat. The holo projector flickered and cut out. Before the team could react, the corridor's far end split open with a grinding screech. There stood a figure 9 feet tall, clad in black starred armor etched with wicked spikes. The helm's visor glowed faintly, obscuring all human features. In its gaunted hand it held a pulsating control rod. Behind it, chained by heavy crystalline links, moved a monstrous silhouette, a hulking beast whose muscle rippled beneath dark scales, maw dripping with corrosive saliva. "Move," the armored figure said, gesturing once with the rod. The chains rattled and the beast flexed, its head snapping side to side as if tasting the air. Captain Valen's training screamed retreat, but her feet refused. "Arlo, Juno, fall back to the entrance now." The officers hesitated only a heartbeat before racing back. Mira stayed, drawing her sidearm and leveling it at the raider. "Identify yourself," she demanded, voice steady despite her pounding. "Heart, state your intentions." The figure raised a hand, and the beast's chain slackened just enough for its enormous head to lunge forward, teeth bared. It snarled a sound like grinding thunder. Sparks danced along its spiny crest, and it pressed its 4 claws against the corridor walls. "Intentions?" The raider repeated, inhumanly calm. "My intention is simple. This world is mine for the taking. Your ship, your crew, our collateral. Kneel, human. Submit your vessel, and I may yet spare your life. Resist, and the beast will hone its claws on your bones." Myra's jaw clenched. Each second she hesitated risked the safety of her people. She forced her eyes to meet the creature's golden gaze. Behind her, Juno's frantic voice crackled. "Captain, the Eva tethers are under fire. They can't hold if you stay." Taking a steadying breath, Mira lowered her weapon. But her mind raced. This was no place for cowardice. She said, "I kneel." The single word caught in her throat. The raider's armor plates clicked as it inclined its head, and Grathox, the beast, asked anticipation rippling through its massive form as the boarding party dropped to one knee. The airlock sealed behind them. The raider raised its rod. Mira closed her eyes, half expecting the world to end with a single strike. Instead, the corridor filled with a low hum and invisible snare tightening around her heart. Horizon 7's pale storms raged outside, the world ready to claim them all. And in the dim glow before her, human defiance faced alien horror and dared not blink. The interior of Necros's Bane was a nightmare of twisted metal and fetid air. Dim crimson lights pulsed along the walls, casting long, writhing shadows that seemed almost alive. Captain Valen and her officers were herded into a high-ceilinged chamber ringed with thick iron bar cells that rattled ominously with every footstep. Between them lay Grathox, the alien beast, its hulking form chained by crystalline bonds that glowed with a cold turquoise light. Each chain link was the size of Valen's forearm, engraved with symbols she couldn't decipher, and every labored breath from the beast sent ripples through its bound muscles. "Lieutenant," Arlo's voice shook as he whispered through the comlink. "These chains, they're not just restraints. They're emitting a subsonic pulse sapping Grathox's strength and feeding data back to the ship's core processors." Valen edged closer to the bars, studying the beast's taut sinews and molten gold eyes. Despite its captive state, it radiated raw ferocity. A single swipe from those claws could tear through reactor plating. Yet in that moment, Grathox seemed uncertain, like a caged storm waiting for the right moment to break free. Footsteps echoed down the corridor as the Raider Necros himself entered, his spiked armor dragging sparks across the floor. His helm's visor reflected the beast's luminous chains. "We've reached the heart of your little puzzle, Captain Valen," he intoned, voice hollow and resonant. "Here you grovel, prey before predator. You will remain until I decide. Your fate, or until the beast tires of your company." Commander Juno squared her shoulders. "Your intimidation won't work. We're not slaves to fear." Negro's helm tilted, as though amused. "Fear is the only truth in this void between stars, Commander. And yet—" He paused, stepping closer to Grathox. "Perhaps you deserve a choice." He raised the control rod, and the chains rattled violently. Grathox's head whipped toward the crowd, teeth bared in a snarl that rattled the cell's bars. Valen's heart thundered. If the beast tore through that cage, they would die instantly. But she thought of her crew, stranded, terrified, cut off. From the Auriga, she forced herself to meet Necros's gaze. "What choice?" she asked, voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. "A test," the raider replied. "You will free my beast from these bonds and prove your worth. Survive its hunt, and I may yet spare you passage. Fail, and—" He let the threat hang in the pulsing red glow. "You understand." Arlo stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You'll have to pry the controls from my cold, dead fingers." With a flick of his wrist, Necros activated the next command. From hidden grooves in the floor, energy nodes emerged, open conduits of raw power. "One short circuit here, one here," he explained, gesturing to parallel nodes flanking each crystalline link. "By shunting the current, you may disable the failsafe matrix. But misstep by even a hair, and the chains will implode, atomizing." Beast and spectators alike. A silence fell. The other prisoners recoiled from the bars. Only Valen and Arlo stood, locked in silent decision. Free Grathox and risk a massacre, or refuse and face a merciless tyrant. Valen swallowed. She knelt beside the cage, her comlink crackling in her ear. "Arlo, you and I do this. Juno, get the others ready in the corridor. If anything goes wrong, we pull back and fight." Juno gave a curt nod. "Understood." Valen rose, took a deep breath, and placed her gloved hand on the nearest energy node. Sparks danced and the beast's growl vibrated through the bars. Across the chamber, Arlo mirrored her motion. Their visors reflected the turquoise chains, pulsing in ominous rhythm. "On three," Valen murmured. "1, 2, 3. Arlo triggered his circuit, and the chains flared white-hot for a heartbeat. Grathox roared as the crystalline bonds shattered, shards tinkling across the floor. Necros cursed in a language Valen didn't know. The beast erupted in motion, muscles coiling as if to spring. Valen braced herself hard in her throat, knowing that once the monster broke free, nothing would ever be the same. A deafening clang shook the iron halls of Necros's bane as the crystalline chains around Grathox snapped apart. Sparks arced across the corridor like deadly fireworks, throwing macabre light over the stung guards. Alarm klaxons wailed. Necros's voice, distorted through his helm's vox array, roared commands that echoed off the bulkheads. Valen didn't hesitate. "Now, Juno!" she shouted, vaulting onto the beast's broad, scaled back. Grathox lashed out, its massive tail sweeping debris and bodies with bone-crushing force. Valen clung to jagged ridges of its spine, her fingers slick with the beast's drool and residue from the shattered bonds. Beneath her, Grathox's muscles rippled like molten rock, each heave powered by furious, liberated strength. At the corridor's end, Necros and his elite guard formed a firing line. Electroblades hummed to life. Rifle shots rang out. Bullets pinned off Grathox's thick hide and the tenuous hoverplate Valen used to stay aloft. Sparks from near misses scorched her gloves, and she bit back a cry. "Hold tight!" she yelled over the din. Grathox turned its head, sensing her distress, and fixed its molten gold eyes on the raider. With a single fluid motion, it reared its haunches and charged forward. The corridor exploded in recklessness. Grathox's forepaws shattered reinforced doors. Its claws gouged through armoring plates as though sheathing knives through butter. Guards scattered, some cut down in a spray of hydraulic fluid. Valen slid along the beast's back, using its momentum to guide her toward the central command chamber, where, she knew, the core override lay. "Juno, breach the door controls," she barked. Juno sprinted ahead, firing a grapnel harpoon that ripped through an access panel. The door groaned and gave way just as Grathox barreled into the room, sending consoles flying and guards skidding across the floor. Inside the command chamber stood the override console, a tumbling array of holographic glyphs and holoswitches. Valen leapt off Grathox's flank, rolling into a crouch. She yanked open the console's housing, revealing a nest of glowing conduits. Sparks from stray blaster fire danced across them, and the chamber's alarms threatened to overload the system entirely. "Cover me," she shouted to Arlo, who joined her at the console, energy pistol drawn. Guard fire ricocheted around them, and the air cracked with the scent of ozone. "Plug in the disruptor module," Valen instructed, pulling a small cylindrical device from her belt. It hissed with stored power. She thrust it into the console's auxiliary port. The glyph matrix flared, and the ship's power grid groaned under the reverse surge dot behind her. Grathox roared a thunderous sound that rattled the walls as it single-handedly tossed the last guard aside. The beast's roar curved into a bellow of triumph, and Valen felt her heart lift with savage joy. Without looking back, she pressed the disruptor's activation plate. Energy cascaded through Necros's bane like a solar flare contained in circuitry. Lights dimmed, machinery ground to a halt. Gravlifts stuttered. The sleek black plating of the Raider's helm flickered as its personal shields collapsed. In one final pulse, the override spread to every system: engines, weapons, life support. The ship fell dead in space. Valen staggered back as a silent wave washed over the chamber. The alarms died. The holodisplays went dark. Even the red emergency lighting winked out, replaced by the soft, natural glow of Horizon 7's violet storm seeping through shattered viewports. Grathox stood beside her, muscles still trembling with unleashed fury, but its eyes met Valen's, calm now, curious. Fragile silence stretched. Valen's breath came in ragged gasps. She raised a hand, trembling, and pressed it against the beast's hot flank. Grathox lowered its head, nudging her glove with its massive snout. In that unspoken moment, predator and human acknowledged each other not as enemy and prey, but equals battered by a merciless universe. "Let's go home," Valen whispered. She turned, her boots crunching on crystalline shackles melted into slag. The corridor beyond the command chamber lay open, an escape route carved by rage and necessity. Grathox padded after her, the only sound its guttural breath. Behind them, the ship's eyes stuttered to life in a distant wiring hub. A single prompt blinked on a flickering holoscreen. External override detected. Primary systems offline. Awaiting command. Valen didn't wait. She reached for her cum, voice steady. "Bridge, this is Captain Valen. We've seized control. Prepare for immediate departure." A moment later, the Auriga's docking clamps released. Valen's crew flooded the corridor, eyes wide at the sight of their captain leading an alien beast as comrade. And as the inert hulk of Necros's bane drifted away, freed from the violence it once commanded, Valen knew two truths. Freedom was won not by chains, and alliances could be forged in the most unlikely hearts. The freighter Auriga drifted toward the ruined hulk of Necros's bane, its boarding clamps swinging open like welcoming arms. Valen's voice came over the comms, calm but fierce. "All hands, stand by to secure the alien vessel. And prepare a medic team for any survivors, human or otherwise." Grathox padded onto the Auriga's loading ramp behind her, every crew member frozen in awe. The beast's molten gold eyes swept the deck, nostrils flaring as it tasted the recycled air of the freighter that had become its refuge. A hush fell over the bridge as Valen reached out, placing a firm hand on its bristling mane. "You're safe now," she murmured. Commander Juno Reyes stepped forward, medical kit in hand. "We'll patch you up, friend," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Grathox lowered its massive head, allowing a careful examination of fresh scrapes from the escape and the remnant of a shattered crystalline shackle caught on its flank. As Juno worked, Lieutenant Arlo accessed the Orega's AI database. "Captain," he said, eyes wide, "our logs classify Grathox as a Class X predatory specimen. But we have no subcategory for something like this." Valen straightened. "Then we make one," she declared. "Treat him as an ally." The bridge erupted in quiet cheers. Even the ship's Adai added an annotation to its display. Species, Grathox, status, allied. Down on the lower decks, the remains of Necros's Bane were sealed for salvage. Valen watched through the viewport as the wreck began to break apart under the freighter's repulsors. Beyond, Horizon 7's violet storms churned, a silent witness to their victory. That evening, Valen convened her officers in the briefing room. Holoprojectors lined the walls with schematics of the wreck, energy nodes shattered and power cores corroded. "We'll sell these crystal matrix fragments," she said. "Fuel our next journeys." Juno nodded. "And we'll send specimens of the attenuated control algorithms to research. This could revolutionize our understanding of Xenocontrol. Tech if only to ensure no one else ever uses it again." Arlo leaned back, grinning. "And what of Grathox?" Valen stood, crossing to the viewport. In the dim glow of the storm-lit clouds, the beast paced on the cargo deck, now a guest instead of a prisoner. "He stays," she said softly. "We'll chart a course for the Epsilon Enclave. They specialize in xenofauna relations. Grathox can help us broker safe passage through uncharted territories, and we might learn from each other." A murmur of approval rippled through the room. "Human and beast," Valen mused. "Two souls freed from chains, forging a bond stronger than any tyrant's command." As the Auriga's engines flared to life, lifting them from Horizon 7's grip, Valen allowed herself a small smile. Below, Grathox rumbled a deep, contented sound, resonant enough to feel through the hull. In that moment, Predator and Captain stood united, staring into the unknown side by side. And in the silent infinity of space, their alliance became legend. A testament that even the darkest chains could be broken, and that friendship could bloom where fear once reigned.